At the class reunion, John arrived successful and accomplished, bringing his beautiful girlfriend. She remarked, "If you hadn't let go back then, you'd be Mrs. Wilson now." Sitting across with his arm around his girlfriend, John replied indifferently, "That's all in the past." The crowd egged them on, reveling in the drama. Under his gaze, I quietly covered the scar on my wrist, forcing a smile. Yes, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. I recall Ivy was the one who initiated the breakup back then. Someone prodded during a lull when John's girlfriend visited the restroom. Ivy was me. John sat opposite, his lips curved in a polite smile but eyes frosty. This marked our first encounter in 6 years since the split. Everything felt jarringly abrupt. I'd only come because the class monitor assured me John wouldn't attend. Yet here he was, now a distinguished young entrepreneur. Overseas returnee talent. His tailored suit and wristwatch worth fortunes. Everyone fawning over him. Meanwhile, my circumstances had deteriorated sharply. Indeed. She ended it first. John answered calmly, fueling everyone's assumptions that I'd been gold digging. Couldn't endure hardship. Bet on the wrong horse. Ivy, didn't that guy you latched onto later end up in prison? And you took on his debts? Here to borrow money? Amid the sneers, John's steady gaze remained fixed on me. Silent. I smiled awkwardly, refusing to engage. When his girlfriend returned, sensing tension, she asked brightly, "What did I miss?" John immediately softened, clasping her hand. "Just catching up." She settled gracefully, her dimpled smile directed at me. "John mentioned you." His exact words were, "If she hadn't let go, she'd be Mrs. Wilson now." Many exchanged gleeful looks. Back when the Peter family thrived, I'd been the center of attention everywhere, resentment that now curdled into schadenfreude. John's icy tone cut through the malice. Ancient history. The room hushed. Subordinates swiftly changing topics. His girlfriend raised a glass to me. "Thank you for letting him go. You must attend our wedding." I pressed harder against my scarred wrist, murmuring, "Congratulations. Why didn't you explain?" Sarah vented over the phone afterward. The party had ended early. Standing alone in the biting cold, my breath visible, I sighed. "He's taken." A pause. "He has a girlfriend now?" Sarah sounded incredulous. "Yes." Around me, classmates departed in clusters. Streetlights casting fractured rainbows across snow like shattered stained glass. "After all your efforts to see him again, Sarah," I interrupted, eyes stinging from wind and unshed tears. "No one waits forever. Some words expire." Explaining now would only breed disgust. The frost nipped at my cheeks as I blinked rapidly. "I'm done." Even after clawing my way up, trying to reunite with dignity, "It's too late." "All right. We'll talk when you get back." The temperature had dropped below freezing before Lunar New Year. Taxis were scarce. After standing outside briefly, my hands turned numb. My phone screen showed in queue. The sharp click of high heels approached from behind, accompanied by a honeyed feminine voice. "John, the snow's beautiful. Wait in the car. I'll join you shortly." John's voice was unmistakable. "Don't take too long." The woman shot me a loaded glance as she passed, her movements deliberately revealing the heirloom bracelet dangling from her wrist, the Wilson family antique that once graced my own arm before I returned it through intermediaries after our breakup. Not just a girlfriend then, but a fiancée. The crowd dissipated, leaving only us under the street lamps' overlapping shadows. My ride hadn't arrived. John stood silently behind me, the tension conjuring memories of that final night, the screech of tires, his brother's accusatory call. "He's at the hospital. Life-threatening? You'd only come if he's dying? Take care of him." Michael. Ivy. He earned that scholarship. Why couldn't you wait? Was the money worth it? You'll never repay what he sacrificed. The line went dead with a crash. I'd abandoned him. His hatred was justified. How much do you owe? John's icy voice shattered the memory. None of your business. Winter air razored through my lungs, triggering violent coughs that doubled me over the lamppost. Alcohol churned in my stomach as tears streamed down. John watched impassively. The taxi pulled up. Pinecrest Estates? Yes. I reached for the door, only to be yanked backward against John's chest. Why there? He demanded, grip searing my wrist. Pinecrest's gates didn't open for strangers. I struggled futilely against his hold. What? Think my money's dirty too? 5,000 a month. 10? Name your price. The slap echoed through the night, my palm stinging against John's cheek. Across the street, his fiancée gasped, rushing toward us. Live your life. I hissed. And keep your hands to yourself. I left those words behind and took a cab home. Did you hit him? Sarah poured me a glass of warm water. Yeah. He wanted to be my sugar daddy. Curled on the couch, I forced down the water through waves of stomach cramps. Moments later, I bolted to the bathroom and vomited. Sarah rubbed my back. You have a weak stomach and still drink? I gasped for air, wiping water droplets from my lips after rinsing my mouth. My esophagus burning. Was it worth it? All those years pining? I stared at my reflection, mascara smudged. Dark hair plastered to my pale forehead. Sarah's muffled grumbling floated from the other room. If you hadn't broken up with him back then, he wouldn't be. My mind drifted to John's fiancée. She radiated the kind of sunshine and vitality I'd once possessed. Before life dragged me through gutters and spat out this hollow version. After Sarah finished her shift at you.He Mansion, we walked hand in hand toward our apartment. John's childhood friend called unexpectedly. Ivy. I could arrange a job if you're struggling. Silence stretched as I waited. They're getting married next month. Emily comes from good stock. You should. I won't interfere. I cut him off. He hesitated. We just want what's best for John. Every former friend had chosen his side. When the call ended, Sarah's eyes glistened. They don't understand anything. Doesn't matter. Needing to stay local. I found work at a small company. During the interview, the HR manager frowned. History of depression? Managed years ago. I have medical clearance. Previous employers had rejected me during background checks. This tiny firm sent the offer that same night. I thought the reunion would be my final encounter with John. 3 days later, he became my boss. My desk got relocated directly outside his office. I refuse. Fine. John didn't look up from his paperwork. Submit resignation to HR. You'd fire me over desk placement? He finally met my gaze. Pen hovering. I'm offering choices. Did you imagine I wanted something from you? Last night's memory flashed, Sarah arguing with our landlord over rent. I forced a smile. How noble of you, Mr. Wilson. He nodded. Close the door on your way out. And turn your chair away, I don't want to see your face. We moved in parallel orbits until the company retreat. As the new hire, colleagues pressured me into drinking. No drink. No paycheck. Little Ivy. We'll take care of you, all girls here. The manager grinned amidst cheers. I downed the final shot and collapsed. Sunlight stabbed my eyes as I woke in an unfamiliar king-sized bed. The plush hotel robe slipped as I stumbled into the living room. There sat John, bathrobe clad, leisurely reading the morning paper with crossed legs. When he saw me emerge, John lifted his gaze indifferently. Awake? Breakfast's on the table. Eat then go rest. A shiver crawled up my spine as I paled. The morning paper landed carelessly on the coffee table as John adjusted his collar. revealing telltale marks. Bad news. Sweetheart. You initiated everything last night. My blood froze. The previous night existed only in terrifying blankness. Impossible. He slid a contract across the marble surface bearing my fingerprint. Terms are clear. You become my kept woman at $10,000 monthly. My throat tightened. I'd never. Certain? His steady gaze pinned me as he produced a recorder. Captured your drunken confession beautifully. Care to hear your pathetic little fantasy? Ivy? Ice flooded my veins. Having those shameful thoughts exposed felt like criminal indictment. John leaned forward, shadows obscuring his eyes. Lusting after another woman's husband? Imagine this playing for your precious social circle. My nails bit crescents into my palms. This is revenge. Isn't it? Obviously. His smile chilled. You destroyed my life. Why shouldn't I return the favor? 2 options: honor the contract. Or let the world hear your desperation. The grandfather clock's ticking merged with my frantic heartbeat. Cracked lips parted. Release it then. His gaze turned arctic as I rasped. I don't steal husbands. John. Amusement twisted his features. Delusions of choice. Ivy? Check the bathroom. My crumpled clothes mocked me from the tiles. Stark against his neatly hung suit. Dressing mechanically. I fled the hotel. Sarah's call came as steel clouds swallowed the sun. They want $50,000. Between my medical bills and her meager savings, they'll expose you and withhold your mother's ashes otherwise. After exhausting other options, I dialed with trembling fingers. Dr. Brown speaking. Frost crystallized my breath. Michael, could you lend me $40,000? Scuffling preceded his calm response. Account number? The dial tone warmed suddenly against my cheek. Gray light persisted as banking alerts blinked. Transfer received. That evening, my manager tapped on my desk. There's a client dinner tonight. You're coming. Hours earlier. I'd begged him for an advance on my salary, combined with borrowed money and my meager savings. I'd barely scraped together $50. 000. When I entered the private dining room, John was there. His tall frame moved effortlessly through the crowd as he exchanged pleasantries. The crystal chandelier's glow highlighted his sharp profile. The manager nudged me forward, and suddenly all eyes turned to me. Mr. Wilson, is this one of your employees? Someone asked. John glanced over with practiced ease. Yes. Our new hire. What kind of rookie needs the CEO's personal attention? Another joked. Eyes lingering on me. She's quite the looker. As everyone took their seats, the manager positioned me beside John, whispering, Be sharp tonight. Step in to take the drinks when needed. The table turned to us. Mr. Wilson, can your new employee hold her liquor? Before John could answer, the manager interjected. Of course she can. He shoved a wine glass toward me. Start with a toast. John drummed his fingers on the tablecloth, smiling faintly. I downed the burning liquid in one gulp. Fire raced down my throat and churned in my stomach. The crowd cheered, ready to push more drinks my way when John redirected the conversation. Where were we earlier? Throughout the night, every toast meant for John found its way to me instead. Doctor's orders, bad stomach, he'd say, watching impassively as the manager maneuvered drink after drink into my hands. I finally staggered to the restroom during dessert courses. Leaning over the sink, I dry heaved as water ran. My hair slipped from its updo, damp strands clinging to the porcelain. After texting Sarah, I collapsed against the counter, chest heaving. The door swung open with measured clicks. John's voice cut through the floral air freshener. Already giving up? I pushed myself upright, swaying toward the exit. His hand closed around my arm, dragging me back. Calloused fingers gripped my nape, searing through my blouse. Let go. The words scraped my acid raw throat. He forced me to face the mirror, tilting my chin. Look at yourself. You think you can walk out like this without attracting predators? My reflection showed flushed cheeks, swollen lips, and a gaping collar. His dark gaze traveled my body in the glass. I shut my eyes, trembling. Who's more dangerous than you? His laugh warmed my ear. Come home with me tonight. Go to hell. The curse died as his mouth crushed mine, stealing oxygen until spots danced in my vision. Boiling blood pounded behind my eyelids. The world dissolved into smears of light and echoing drips that ate at my resolve like acid. Weak slaps against his shoulders did nothing. The fancy bathroom tiles blurred into memories of different walls, different darkness. I was that girl again, the one who didn't belong in this glittering world, no matter how hard she pretended. John, could you let me go? I fell silently, crashing violently into the bottom of the well. It must have been painful, but I couldn't feel it anymore. Ivy! John was shouting my name. Gone was that look of wishing me dead. He panicked, so much that I couldn't tell whether this was the young version of him or the present one. I said, John, I never want to see you again. The high fever came raging, delirious with pain. I shivered uncontrollably under thick quilts. As northern winds howled outside the window, I drifted into memories of our past, clutching John's back. I'd asked, John, what if I die? He carried me steadily forward, murmuring comfort, don't talk nonsense. It's just a fever. The 4 will fix it. Hey, can you afford this? IVs are expensive. It's fine. How's it fine? How many jobs are you working? John didn't answer, setting me down at the nurse's station. He knelt before me with earnest eyes. As long as you're safe, nothing else matters. Buried in my puffer coat, I fretted when my parents stopped fighting. I'll ask them for living expenses to pay you back. John smoothed my hair, tenderness warming his gaze. Trust me, we'll have money someday. But I didn't stay safe as he'd hoped. The night John left for an out-of-state competition, I opened my parents' bedroom door. My father shielded another woman in his arms. My picture-perfect life began crumbling then. Endless screaming matches followed. Dad disappeared without warning. The Peters debts piled sky-high. One midnight, middle-aged debt collectors broke in. The swinging ceiling light, their excited jeers, the nauseating pain of rough hands grabbing flesh all blended with Mom's heartrending curses into toxic sludge churning in my brain. Time fast-forwarded. Creditors forced Mom to drown herself in the bathtub. Sarah found me half-naked, whisking me to distant South City. On a gloomy rainy day, I crouched in hospital corridors wearing mourning clothes. Vacant-eyed. Family history of depression. Any relatives left? Sarah answered worriedly, a boyfriend. At a competition out of state. Call him. The doctor's clinical tone mixed with jargon, severe suicidal tendencies. Treatment could take years. Family must prepare for long-term care. My shattered mind couldn't pursue justice through police reports. Sarah and I became stray dogs fleeing our hometown with broken armor. That same day, John's name topped the competition winners list. He earned the overseas scholarship. When his call came, wind roared through the receiver. Ivy. His voice melted with tenderness. I kept my promise. I'll marry you in 3 years. Watching steel gates clang shut behind me, I whispered, John, I might not make it with you. Silence. Then his strained question, why? My hesitation lasted 1 heartbeat. His future shone too bright. The afternoon sun slanted through the blinds, casting golden stripes across the leather couch. I sat up in bed, disoriented, as the last remnants of my nightmare dissolved. There he was, John Wilson, methodically peeling an apple with those surgeon, precise fingers I used to trace with my lips. The paring knife stilled as our eyes met. Without a word, he pressed the nurse call button. Ivy needs her vitals checked, he informed the arriving physician, his voice colder than the stainless steel tray. When the doctor suggested protein supplements, John nodded with detached courtesy. The door clicked shut, leaving us in thickening silence. He extended the perfectly spiraled apple peel toward me. My bare feet hit cold linoleum as I scrambled to the closet. Empty. No phone. No shoes. Just endless rows of silk pajamas in my size. Why are you doing this? My reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows showed a wraith tangled hair. Collarbones protruding above a lace camisole. The fading bruises on my neck pulsed with memory. John closed the distance in 2 strides, tilting my chin up. His thumb brushed the purple marks. You know why. The citrus scent of his cologne clashed with hospital antiseptic. When his lips grazed mine, I turned away instinctively. His chuckle vibrated against my temple. Still a terrible liar. Ivy. The private facility's pine forest stretched endlessly beyond bulletproof glass. Each escape attempt ended at the biometric gates. Even the night nurse averted her eyes when I begged for help. He came daily at twilight, smelling of boardroom battles and expensive scotch. Tonight he found me curled in the window seat, watching deer graze in the fading light. Remember senior year? His voice startled me. When you made me ditch AP calculus for that damned banana smoothie? The ghost of our teenage selves hovered between us, him in varsity jackets, me doodling Mrs. Ivy Wilson in notebook margins. The monitors beeped louder as his fingers threaded through mine. You promised I'd make something of myself. His wedding band glinted in the sunset. Now I have everything except the one thing that matters. I studied our intertwined hands. The same hands that signed my admission papers. The same hands that erased my existence beyond these walls. The woods darkened outside as his lips found the vulnerable spot below my ear. Somewhere beyond the pines, campus gossip still whispered about the star quarterback and his homecoming queen. But here in this gilded cage, only the heart monitor answered when I whispered, "Let me go." The apple peel lay abandoned on the nightstand, browning at the edges. I rode the subway over a dozen stops and ended up crying beneath the boys' dormitory. John threw on clothes in the middle of the night, rushing downstairs to gently wipe my tears. Stop crying. If you want me, I'm yours. From now on, there'll only be you. That's not how you confess. I sniffled. He froze, then crushed me against his chest. I love you. Neither of us could have imagined that 15 years later, we'd find ourselves here. Tomorrow, I'm getting married. The sunset still lingered outside, its warmth fading. John's voice dragged me back from distant memories. Don't you have anything to say to me? I cradled my half-empty milk glass, studying his face. Suddenly I understood why I'd been dreaming so frequently lately. I was saying goodbye to the younger versions of Ivy and John. The TV buzzed daily with updates about him and Emily. Golden couple. Match made in heaven. The future we'd once dreamed of. But what right did the current Ivy have? Drowning in debt and disgrace? Congratulations, I said. May you have children soon. John's knife slipped while peeling an apple, blood blooming on his thumb. He chuckled darkly, pressing a tissue to the wound. No need. Emily and I are just going through the motions. Want kids? I'm game. John. Let's just end this cleanly. Exhaustion weighted my bones. Let's keep some dignity. He threw the apple into the fruit basket, eyes blazing. End it? After you started this? After you got bored and walked away like it meant nothing? What was I, some fucking pet? I closed my eyes against the sun's glare. Then I'll pay you back. His breath hitched. What did you say? Staring at the dying sunset, I whispered, if you want me miserable, I could just die. Fingers dug into my jaw, wrenching my face toward his furious gaze. Ivy. Are you insane? If you wanted death so badly, why didn't you die back then? I don't remember when he left. That night, David, John's friend and my former confidant, burst into my room. Ivy. What the hell did you promise me? He shouted, snowflakes melting in his hair. Do you have any idea what breaking this engagement will cost John? You're a grown woman now. Stop being that selfish girl who made John clean up every mess. What happened? David laughed bitterly. He's calling off the wedding because of you. And you dare ask? The world muffled as if underwater. My hands turned to ice. By publicly jilting her. What does that make me? A homewrecker? David hauled me from bed. Come on. Weren't you full of excuses before? Boredom? New lovers? Use any damn reason. David. Ivy. His voice cracked with rage. None of this would have happened if you'd stayed gone. The howling wind swallowed his words. Frostbite numbness spread through me as I stared at his face twisted with hatred I'd never seen before. It seems someone like me deserves to die. David is the one who won't let me go. David's expression turned icy. After this matter is settled, I'll send you away. The office building blazed with lights in the dead of night. David dragged me inside. But the press conference had already begun. John sat composed under the spotlights. Is it true your broken engagement was due to a third party? A reporter asked. John answered smoothly. MS. Emily and I had irreconcilable differences. We parted amicably. David's face darkened, his grip tightening on my wrist to prevent any movement. But sources claim you rekindled things with your first love. Another journalist pressed. John remained unflappable. Those are baseless rumors. If there are no further questions, as he stood, someone suddenly shouted. She's here. That's her. Every camera swung toward us, caught in the merciless glare of spotlights. I stood frozen, disheveled and panic-stricken. Reporters swarmed like vultures, surrounding us completely within seconds. What's your relationship with John? Did you really sabotage his engagement? Camera shutters clicked incessantly. John's polished smile faltered. He began pushing through the crowd toward me. No. I didn't. I whispered hoarsely, my denial drowned by the barrage of questions. Breaking news! A reporter brandished his phone triumphantly. My own voice spilled out, slurred with tears and alcohol. Murmuring, John, I love you. The recording pinned me like a butterfly to corkboard. I'd thought nothing could worsen my ruined life. Yet this hurricane stripped me bare. Homewrecker! Someone hissed. The word slapped harder than any physical blow. My face drained of color as the recording played on. David! Get her out! John barked, shoving through the crowd with uncharacteristic desperation. My vision blurred. Another reporter began reading aloud, father's deaths, mother's suicide, severe familial depression, 5 years at Nanjing Psychiatric, she's mentally ill? The crowd erupted. Why let crazies roam free? Should have offed herself. John froze mid-stride, whipping around to stare at me. Shock. Disbelief. Horror. I sat motionless in the roaring chaos, feeling warmth bleed from my body until only icy numbness remained. John called out to me, his voice trembling. I knew what was coming. I simply waited calmly for the guillotine to drop, utterly destroying my life. She was also sexually assaulted. Those were the final words of the anonymous exposé. The moment John heard them, his face turned ashen. He hadn't spoken since returning from the company 3 days ago. The blinds remained drawn, sealing out sunlight from the dim office. Missed calls flooded his phone screen, yet he ignored every one. Time seemed frozen around him as he sat slumped in his chair, devoid of vitality. John remembered the icy tone of the man who'd taken Ivy away. We all fought to keep her alive. The stranger had spat. John, your ruthless efficiency effortlessly destroyed years of our efforts. Sarah had been restrained by security outside, screaming hoarsely, "John, don't you know she'll relapse without medication? Locking her up is murder. Depression. Psychiatric hospital." These terms churned through his mind like barbed wire, lacerating every thought. David knocked tentatively before peering through the door. "You doing any better, John?" "Why?" John's ragged voice betrayed the agony tearing through him. David hesitated. "I didn't think further investigation was necessary." "So, the records were falsified, weren't they?" John's whisper cut through the gloom. "When you told me she dated multiple men abroad." "David, Ivy was actually confined in Nan City Psychiatric Hospital." "Sorry, John. I didn't know." The apology rang hollow. John lacked the strength to hear more excuses. Sarah burst past the apologetic secretary into the office. Harsh daylight made John wince. But he didn't object. "Some truths need saying now, John," Sarah declared, keeping her distance. Icy wind seeped through a cracked window as John sat motionless, awaiting judgment. Karma always comes for those who do wrong. Sooner or later. Sarah's voice hardened. "Last year on Ivy's birthday, I jokingly asked who she loved most. She said first her mother, then John." John closed his eyes, the words freezing his marrow. Her condition had stabilized then. Just one small pill daily let her function normally. "This year, we returned to collect her mother's belongings. She kept saying their breakup was too messy, she just wanted proper closure. Maybe catch a glimpse of the great entrepreneur from afar. Because she knew she wasn't good enough for you anymore." Sarah's eyes glistened. "Wasn't good enough for you, John? Do you know how she got you that competition slot? It was already rigged until Ivy filed that complaint demanding fair selection. You got the position, but she made powerful enemies. After her father disappeared, she and her mother faced relentless harassment." John's hands clenched, the devastating truth crashing over him. The invisible hand tightened around John's throat, cutting off his breath. She'd been hurt. Was this why? Sarah continued. "You were away at that academic competition for a week without calling. You wouldn't know how everything collapsed here. The Peter family fell apart. Her father ran off with his mistress, leaving debt collectors camped outside their door demanding Ivy and her mother's lives. Mrs. Peter took her own life. After that, Ivy, people took advantage. Then the illness came." Sarah's voice turned brittle. "At her worst, I couldn't let her out of my sight for a second. They'd broken her beyond recognition. When you had that car accident, Ivy sobbed begging me to let her die. How could you expect her to move on?" John's face turned ashen, eyes squeezing shut. Memories of recent months clawed at him, letting the manager get Ivy drunk before delivering her to his hotel room. Coaxing drunken confessions. Fabricating that sham contract just to watch her squirm. The humiliations. The mind games. Finally locking her away in that private clinic outside town. Sarah came pleading multiple times. He'd refused to see her. He'd sneered, asking if she was mentally ill. Why she hadn't killed herself years ago. Ivy's eyes had grown hollow, staring through him. He'd mistaken that emptiness for lingering affection. Now he realized she'd been silently demanding why he'd become her tormentor. "Why didn't you tell me?" John's voice cracked. Sarah's composure shattered. How? She could barely keep breathing. All she wanted was to protect the people she loved from her collapse. That competition was your golden ticket, the chance she fought tooth and nail to get you. She just wanted you to succeed. Tell me, John, did she deserve this? Did she? Each word hammered into John's chest. He'd been the one stalking her, humiliating her, weaponizing her integrity with that fake contract. The real monster sat in this leather chair. We tried everything to reignite her will to live. Sarah's bitter laugh held tears. No, what finally worked? Your name. her great entrepreneur. When we left town, I joked we'd never return. Shouldn't have jinxed it. The illness is back. Winter in Southern City usually meant icy rain, but this year brought unexpected snow. Nurses clucked about the harsh cold snap planets becoming uninhabitable. They muttered. Bare branches scraped the clinic window as I pressed my cheek to the glass, breath fogging the pain. That man stood in the courtyard again. Didn't he feel the cold? Sarah strode past with my warm milk. Expression stormy. Apparently not. Even Dr. Michael had been tense lately. I tiptoed around them like a mouse, noticing my wariness. Sarah softened her tone. Drink up. Meds in an hour. Michael's taking you snowman building tonight. I glanced back at the solitary figure. Something familiar. Sarah yanked the curtains shut. Don't waste your eyes. Obediently retreating to bed, I hid my phone as Michael entered. Meds taken. I chirped, straightening up. The sharp scent of antiseptic followed him in. Outside, Sarah's heated whispers with Michael carried through the door. About the man who stood vigil in the snow. Perhaps. The one whose silhouette haunted my fogged window, stirring half-remembered ghosts in the medicine haze. Michael Brown's gaze swept over me before settling on my face. Miss Peter, I won't scold you for gaming during work hours. My cheeks flushed crimson as I slowly retrieved my phone. How did you know I was playing? I game too. That background music is familiar. Michael washed his hands and removed his white coat, his eyes crinkling with amusement through the mirror reflection. Aren't you going to change? We promised to build snowmen today. As a thoracic surgeon at the same hospital, our first encounter happened on a rare sunny autumn day. I'd been crouching by the fence trying to retrieve a stray yarn ball when he walked by. Excuse me. I panted. Could you help me get that? He glanced at the facility's placard before answering. Regulations prohibit you from handling potentially hazardous objects. When I didn't move, he added, what were you planning to do with it? Cat's cradle. Checking his watch, Michael knelt down. I'll play with you, but I'll have to take the string afterward. During his brief lunch break, we played the string game through the metal bars. As he left, I murmured thanks. Our subsequent encounters were fleeting until the day he reappeared with yarn. Apologies. It's been hectic. Gradually, he started conversations. You're unusually quiet. I can't speak much. Why? My condition. I don't want to burden others with gloom. His intense gaze held mine wordlessly. His visits became more frequent, sometimes arriving exhausted. I'd memorize jokes to tell him, each time met with his tender expression. Ivy, he once asked, what's your greatest wish? For everyone to find happiness, myself included, now bundled in snow gear. I waited as Michael zipped his parka and led me through multiple security checkpoints. Only he possessed the access codes. Under the swirling snowstorm, my hat whitened within minutes. He handed me a small shovel. Pace yourself. The crisp air invigorated me as I twirled around the frozen fountain with my shovel. Turning, I froze. John stood yards away, eyes bloodshot with stubble shadowing his jaw. John? I whispered, startled. His lips trembled. Ivy. I was wrong. In the past, I'd have demanded wrong how? With defensive pride. Now I simply clutched my shovel, staring at snow-crusted boots. It's fine. The howling wind swallowed my words as John knelt before me. How can it be fine? His voice cracked. Please, talk to me. Anything. After consideration, I answered sincerely. Let's wish each other good health this new year. Color drained from his face. Tears tracked down his wind-burned cheeks. Don't shut me out like this. When I cupped his freezing face as I'd done years ago, he shuddered under my touch. I originally wanted to meet you in a dignified way. but ended up making a mess of everything. I'm sorry. This is my fault, John said hoarsely, snowflakes clinging to his dark lashes. If I had just... He swallowed hard. But I chose to walk away from your life. No one else is to blame. My words came slowly, tinged with lingering sorrow. For the reunion, I checked with our class president. He told me you weren't attending. I don't know why he lied. A bitter smile touched my lips. I just wanted to hear about you. To know if you were doing well. John's shoulders shook with suppressed sobs. It was me. I told him to say that. The admission hung between us like the frost in the air. I see. I murmured, the revelation settling like ash on my tongue. God. Ivy, his gloved hands trembled as they cradled mine, thumbs brushing over the faded scar beneath my sleeve. When you needed me most, I wasn't there. I should've. You don't owe me apologies. I gently plucked a snowflake from his eyelashes, remembering how they used to flutter against my cheek when we kissed. John, seeing you succeed, it makes me genuinely happy. All those nights we stayed up dreaming about this. But I promised to spoil you rotten. His anguished laugh cracked midway. What's the point of any of it without you? I tugged my wool scarf higher, the soft fibers catching tears I refused to shed. This cost me $30. My savings are enough. The forced cheer in my voice sounded hollow even to me. Really? I'm doing fine. The desperate hope in his eyes dimmed. There's no going back. Is there? We've both built separate lives. My mittened hand found his stubbled cheek, colder than the December wind. I won't return to Beijing. Not after. The unspoken words crystallized between us, whispers of betrayal that still cut like shrapnel. To go back meant walking through a minefield of memories, each step resurrecting humiliations better left buried. John's breath hitched as he pressed my palm to his lips, warming my fingers like he used to during campus winters. The recording, that night, I set it all up. We never. I know. The admission burned my throat. So apologize properly. Say the words. Forgive me. The plea tore from him like a wounded animal's cry, his gaze memorizing every detail of my face as if painting a final portrait. Ivy. I'm so sorry. My hand lingered on his shoulder. Take care of yourself, John. The snowfall thickened as I turned away, battered by gusts that mirrored the howling void in my chest. Whether the wailing came from the storm or John's broken sobs, I couldn't tell, nor dared to check. Michael stood beneath a flickering street lamp, his cashmere coat dusted white. Even through the blizzard, I felt the weight of his clinical gaze tracking my approach. See anything interesting? He asked mildly, brushing snow from my hat. I blinked up at him, eyes suspiciously bright. Dr. Michael, Thank you. The scandal broke 3 days later. News outlets showed a gaunt John confessing everything, the orchestrated recording, the coercive tactics. Legal documents flooded social media, revealing his 2-year business engagement with Emily. Their planned breakup announcement had ironically coincided with our ill-fated reunion. David called weeks afterward, voice frayed with regret. I misjudged people. Ivy. Emily, she acted on her own agenda. The leak about your past, his sigh crackled through the receiver. You deserved better from us all. Those creditors who once extorted $500,000 from me couldn't reach me after John took me to a private hospital. They ended up selling the debt to Emily at double the price. The caller mentioned concerns about John's work ethic and asked if I'd consider returning. My answer remained unchanged. I'd said all there was to say. 3 months later, when my condition stabilized, discharge day arrived. Sunlight draped over me like warm honey as spring blossoms nodded beyond the hospital window. The familiar antiseptic scent announced Michael's arrival. Any food? I'm starving after back-to-back surgeries, he said, already rummaging through my things. Lifting the wool scarf, I revealed still warm red bean buns I'd been keeping hot against my neck. Michael devoured the pastry with the urgency of someone who'd skipped 3 meals. I watched until he chuckled. Why the stare? You're surprisingly low maintenance, I admitted. After licking powdered sugar off his fingers, he casually asked, "Ever thought about staying in town long term?" "Why? My apartment's available. Great neighborhood. Can't afford fancy rents right now. I'll cut you a deal." Michael deadpanned. "No neighbors. Gets creepy alone at night." His poker face almost convinced me this wasn't a transparent ploy until I noticed his ears turning pink. On discharge morning, spring breezes carried cherry blossom petals across the crosswalk. Distracted by floating petals, I stepped off the curb without checking the light. Michael yanked me back by the collar, sending me stumbling against his chest. His hand remained firmly around mine. I began. "Courting you," he interrupted casually, as if commenting on the weather. Somewhere, children shook toy tambourines. My own pulse drummed louder. I loved someone for years, I managed. Not sure if. Wind tousled Michael's hair as he smiled. "Ivy," he said gently. "I've loved someone that long too. Take a chance?" Sunlight haloed his face as my vision blurred. "But my health, you once wished happiness for everyone, including yourself." His thumb brushed my knuckles. "Let me help make that happen." The spring I never thought I'd see now bloomed everywhere. Next winter brought news of Emily's bankruptcy. Those who tormented me faced legal consequences through John's efforts. His company narrowly survived multiple crises. On the anniversary of our reunion, John sat alone in his office watching snow blanket the city. Headlights far below snaked through the storm. Exactly a year ago tonight, snow had fallen when I appeared at that alumni gathering. He remembered my shocked expression when Emily entered with him, the way my hands trembled around my wine glass. In the years that followed, John would dream of that scene countless times. He'd rewritten the scenario endlessly in his dreams, calling off the engagement earlier, dialing 911 when the manager slipped drugs into her drink, never forcing her to drink or speaking harsh words. Just as Ivy had once imagined, they'd have a dignified reunion. Ivy would return, nestling against him late at night while recounting past hardships, tears of vulnerability streaming down her face. John would hold her, kiss her, soothe her, and propose. They'd build a home together. Their wedding photos would capture Ivy's radiant smile, fingers interlaced with his. Every time he awoke to the metronome-like ticking of the wall clock, the truth would crash over him. Time marched forward. But Ivy would never again exist in his tomorrows. She'd vanished completely. That snowy night in South City haunted him. Ivy had wished him peace and happiness with startling sincerity. Her eyes rimmed red yet unwavering. Because he'd hurt her, she chose departure. No accusations. No bitter reproaches, just those tenderly lethal words carving permanent ache into his heart. Irregular hours had ravaged his stomach. During one particularly vicious flare-up, John jolted awake to moonlight pooling on sterile bedsheets. It struck him suddenly, watching the moon with Ivy felt like another lifetime. The next morning, he booked a flight to South City. Identical weather greeted him a year later, blustering winds, heavy snowfall, hurried pedestrians. He traced an address to an apartment complex. As dusk fell, the second-floor unit remained dark. John waited in shadowed corners. 30 minutes later, a familiar voice carried through the snowfall. "The tomato brisket from that place is awful. Buy fresh ingredients next time, I'll cook it myself. Sarah loves it too. Invite her over." John's gaze snapped toward the sound. There she stood, slightly fuller figure steady on icy pavement, wool cap dusted white by snowflakes. Beside her, a tall bespectacled man paused mid-step, eyes locking with John's across the distance. "Hey, Michael, are you even listening?" Ivy's familiar chiding tone now addressed another. Michael brushed snow from her hat like petting an oversized teddy bear. Go feed the kid. I'll handle dinner supplies. Where are you going? To replace the pot you scorched last time. What about the brisket? Getting that too. Since when are you this efficient? Craving it tonight. Ivy scampered into the building, leaving two men standing motionless in the swirling storm. Michael Brown finally looked over. John had nothing to say. So he first uttered, "Congratulations." Michael smiled. "Thank you." He knew John had misunderstood. The son was actually the cat he and Ivy had raised together. But Michael didn't feel like explaining. Last winter when he'd brought Ivy downstairs to build a snowman, he'd given John every opportunity. Regardless, things between Ivy and John were over now. They should both move on. Her condition, stable. Michael stated bluntly. She's got a gentle temperament. Hardly ever gets angry. A remarkable woman. John knew she was doing well, because he remembered exactly how Ivy looked when she was truly happy. Michael's gaze sharpened behind his glasses. John, how many years have you known her? 14 exactly. You understand her better than I do then. The birthday comment was Michael's subtle reproach. If John had truly understood Ivy, why had he hated her so bitterly? Why had he let her suffer through those later years? John? A crystalline voice cut through the snowfall. John whirled around. That face he dreamed of daily appeared without warning, even the smile curvature matching his memories perfectly. Ivy stood holding an umbrella. Another clutched to her chest, eyes wide with surprise. What are you doing here? The pain hit John like a physical blow when he saw only clarity and composure in her gaze. She'd moved on. After a beat, he said, "Business trip." Ran into Michael and started chatting. "Business, in a residential area?" Ivy frowned. Michael interjected. "Why'd you come back down?" "Oh." Ivy suddenly remembered. Handing him the spare umbrella. "The snow's getting heavy. Didn't want you catching cold." Her lips curved warmly when speaking to Michael, eyes crinkling with affection. The sight pierced John's heart. "Care to come up?" Michael offered politely. John forced a smile. "Can't. Evening flight to catch." Ivy tightened her coat, then brightened. "Wait here a second." She dashed back toward the building. Michael followed without expression. John waited as snow thickened, leaden clouds mirroring the weight in his chest. His stomach began its familiar ache. David's call came through. "Bro," the hesitation said everything. "Your test results came back. It's gastric cancer." John stood motionless, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Tilting his head back to gaze at the swirling snowstorm, he murmured before hanging up. He resumed waiting like nothing happened, eyes fixed on the apartment building entrance. What had transpired during my absence? After a while, Ivy emerged alone. Michael had bundled her into an unwieldy cotton puff. Clutching a small red tin, she trudged through the snow and offered it to John. "Homemade cookies for your trip," she said with effort. The tin felt familiar in his palms. Memories flooded back, teenage Ivy's disastrous baking attempts reeking of raw eggs. Every failed batch dutifully consumed by him. He'd eventually banned her from their future kitchen. Yet here she stood offering perfectly baked treats. "Thank you for the donations," Ivy said earnestly. John knew her nonprofit helped mentally ill individuals in poverty. His monthly contributions left barely enough for his own expenses. "You're welcome," he replied, studying her wind-flushed cheeks. "It's freezing. You should go back." "I probably won't come again." Ivy's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Nonsense. We'll need you at our next award ceremony." The words lodged in John's throat like ice shards. As she turned, the crunch of snow boots echoed through the frozen air. At the doorway, she paused. "John?" His heart surged like startled prey. She turned, breath visible in the cold. Happy New Year. Just the standard holiday greeting, no stay healthy or be happy lingering beneath. John's hope crumbled like overbaked shortbread. Happy New Year, he answered, the words dissolving into winter's indifferent breath.